I'm Jill, Chief Safety Officer with Vivid Learning Systems. I'm a former OSHA inspector, and I'm here to help you identify and correct workplace safety hazards. For this series, we're at the University of Louisville in beautiful Kentucky to show you no matter where you work, safety is for everyone. Today we're at the University of Louisville Dental School, and we're talking about ventilation devices. Now sometimes we hear people call them hoods, but that's just an assumption that all ventilation devices are the same, and we use this term called hood, which really isn't appropriate. So to set us straight today and teach us about various ventilation devices that are used in labs, we have Rachel Carey, a lab safety training specialist here at the university, and behind us is a biological safety cabinet. Rachel, can you share with us what is a biological safety cabinet? I understand there's 3 different classes of them, so can we maybe start there?
Sure. A biosafety cabinet is a ventilation device set up in a laboratory to work with biohazardous materials. The primary function of the biosafety cabinet is going to be to provide containment to the hazardous materials that you're working with. Based on the potential risk of the material you're working with, you may use one of 3 biosafety cabinets.
Okay.
So we have a class 1, a class 2, and a class 3. Right now we're sitting in front of the class 2.
Okay.
It's the most common type of biosafety cabinet used in research facilities.
What does a class 2 do? Like what sort of?
So a class 2 biosafety cabinet is going to provide protection to the worker, which is one of our primary concerns, but it's also going to provide protection to your workspace.
Okay. How do biological safety cabinets protect the worker?
So airflow is going to be pulled in through a front grill, which you can see here in the front of the cabinet.
Okay.
Once it's pulled in, it's going to pass through a HEPA filter to remove any particulate from the air. That filtered air is going to pass over your work surface and then is going to be exhausted back through the cabinet where it's filtered again and then exhausted out.
Okay.
That way you're getting protection to your workspace as well as to the worker and to the environment.
And so do all 3 classes have a HEPA filter and function that way, or is that a difference too?
They do all have a HEPA filter, but there are differences in how the airflow works or how the airflow passes through the cabinet. So in a class 1 cabinet, ambient room air is going to pass over your workspace. So what you lose is the protection to your workspace.
Okay.
However, that air is still going to be pulled through the cabinet, passed through the HEPA filter, and exhausted.
Protecting you.
Protecting the worker and the environment. Class 2, however, is going to be HEPA filtered 2 times. So a class 2 cabinet, air will be pulled in, filtered, passed over the workspace, filtered again before it exhausts.
Could you give an example of what kind of work would happen in these kind of hoods?
Yeah, so at our organization, employees or students typically use these for doing cell culture, where they're growing mammalian or a variety of different cell lines for manipulations for different experiments that they might be working on.
Okay, and so it's important to protect the worker and the experiment that they're working on from contamination.
Yes, and these again are going to be for biohazardous materials specifically.
Okay. Could you talk with us about things that you wouldn't want to do inside a biosafety cabinet? What would be some unsafe work practice?
There are a lot.
Okay.
So one of the most common problems that we see with people working with these cabinets are maybe bad habits that they form that could block the proper airflow within the cabinet.
Okay.
So again, we have this front grill. We also have a grill in the back, and as you can see from this cabinet here, there are quite a few things stored in the cabinet. And what happens when you do that is you block the airflow through that back grill.
Sure.
And what you're really relying on for protection is the airflow, which when properly functioning creates an air curtain that's going to protect you from any hazardous materials that may exit the cabinet and harm your body.
And there's a certain level to which the sash can go. You wouldn't want the entire thing open, correct?
Exactly. And fortunately, most of these are equipped with an alarm that will let you know if your sash is not at the appropriate level.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what about special cleaning considerations? Like, what does an employee need to know about the way to properly clean it so they're not taking the decontaminant somewhere else with them?
Yeah, we do recommend that all of our personnel decontaminate the cabinet before and after use. After use, to of course clean up your workspace after you're finished with it, but before you use it, because these are shared, it is shared equipment, and so you always want to ensure that you're getting started in a clean workspace. Sure. We also recommend that you decontaminate with a disinfectant that is going to be effective against the material that you're working with. And there can also be other considerations such as the stainless steel workspace and avoiding the use of corrosive
to decontaminate. Yeah, sure. You wouldn't want to damage the equipment.
Yeah, so you want to do a little investigating to make sure that you're using a proper disinfectant.
Can you share with us what kind of personal protective equipment would be important for employees to wear?
For most of our lab spaces, we recommend that employees always wear a lab coat and gloves. And so that would apply as well when working in a biological safety cabinet. Depending on the way that the employee is manipulating the material, they may want to wear more protective equipment, including potential respiratory protection, if a second layer of protection is needed, a impervious gown, if splashes could occur during whatever technique they're doing. But typically, a lab coat and gloves are standard.
And the gloves, the type of glove would be dictated by what it is that they're working with in there as well.
Yeah, a lot of people prefer latex because you can feel better with latex. Sure. Nitrile is what I typically recommend to people. It does, in some cases, add more protection, sure, and it's a little bit more resistant to tearing. Which can happen a lot when you're working in biosafety.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you for teaching us about the first type of ventilation device. We'll move on now to another type of ventilation device commonly used in labs. I hope you gained a safety skill today. If you know someone who needs this, go ahead and pass it on. Safety is everyone's business.